$20. 30 days. No adult at home. No working card. No food after day 4. I was 11 years old and I was completely alone. My mother was taking photos at restaurants in Europe. I was recording an empty fridge on an old tablet. The night she came back home, she screamed in front of everyone. Here is exactly what happened. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The morning my parents left, my mother checked her suitcase 3 times. She counted her passport, her boarding pass, and her travel wallet. She reminded my father to confirm the car that was picking them up. She did not check on me. I was 11 years old and I was standing at the top of the stairs in my socks, watching them move through the house the way people move when they are already mentally somewhere else. My mother, Sandra, was wearing a white linen blouse and had her hair up the way she only wore it when she wanted to look good for photos. My father, James, said almost nothing, which was not unusual. He was a quiet man. He lived in our house the way furniture lives in a house, present, useful, easy to walk past without noticing. Before my mother walked out the front door, she came to the kitchen and set 2 things on the table. A folded $20 bill and a small white envelope containing a silver credit card. $20 for the month, she said. The card is for real emergencies only. Do not be stupid with it. Then she wheeled her suitcase to the door, my father followed behind her, and the lock clicked shut. I stood at the window and watched the car pull away from the curb. I waited 5 full minutes the way you wait after a loud sound in the night, just to be completely sure they were not coming back. We lived in a nice house. 2 stories, a clean front lawn, a neighborhood where all the houses looked the same and all the families looked like they had everything together. My mother had an account online where she posted photos of our Sunday meals, our decorated table at holidays, our tidy living room with the candles lit just right. She had thousands of people following her. In the captions she wrote things like, "So grateful for this little life," and "Love makes a house a home." If you scrolled back far enough you could find a few photos of me from when I was very small, maybe 5 or 6 years old, useful for the look of a happy family. By the time I was 8 or 9, I had slowly disappeared from those photos. My mother said I did not like being in pictures. I had learned, by then, not to argue with the stories she told about me. My father worked long hours and came home tired. He ate whatever was on the table and then watched television until he fell asleep. He was not a cruel man. He was simply a man who had decided that not making things worse was the same as being a good father. I had been making my own breakfast since 2nd grade. I signed my own school forms when teachers sent things home. I set my own alarm. I knew which bus to take and what time to take it. My mother liked to tell people at dinner parties that I was remarkably independent for my age. She said it with the mild pride of someone describing a low-maintenance plant. I thought all of this was normal. I thought every child learned early to take up as little space as possible. I did not yet understand that I was being trained, very efficiently, to be left. 2 weeks before they left, my mother called me into the living room and told me about the trip. Europe. 1 month. Paris, then Rome, then somewhere in Greece she pronounced wrong. You are old enough to manage, she said. You have basically been doing it your whole life already. My father stood by the glass door to the backyard with his back to both of us. I asked who would be staying with me. She looked at me the way she looked at a phone screen that was not loading, brief irritation, quickly hidden. No one, she said. That is the whole point. You know how to take care of yourself. I did not say anything else. I had learned, over 11 years, when a conversation was over. The credit card, I discovered on day 3, had never been activated. I found this out at the small grocery store 2 blocks from our house. I was buying a bottle of juice and a can of soup. The cashier ran the card twice and then looked at me with a flat expression and said it was not going through. I put the juice back. I kept the soup. I walked home holding the bag with both hands and sat at the kitchen table and did the math on my phone's calculator. $20. 30 days. That was 66 cents per day, rounded up. 66 cents per day. I did that math standing in a grocery store at 11 years old, and I didn't cry. I just started planning. I went back to the store the next morning with my $20 and a clear head. I stood in the dry goods aisle for a long time. 6 packs of instant noodles. A loaf of white bread. A jar of peanut butter. 1 large bottle of ketchup because it had some taste to it, and sometimes taste is what makes you feel less invisible. I carried everything home in a paper bag pressed against my chest, and I organized it all on the kitchen counter the way someone organizes supplies before a long winter. I gave myself half a pack of noodles in the morning, half at night. I drank a lot of water in between because a full stomach of water at least stops the part of your brain that keeps reminding you that you are hungry. On day 5 I called my mother. I could hear music in the background, something slow and European, the kind of music that plays in restaurants where the plates are small and the prices are large. "Mom," I said. "The card does not work. I don't have money for food." There was a pause. Then she exhaled slowly, the particular exhale she used when she wanted me to understand I was being difficult. "You are being dramatic," she said. $20 is more than enough if you are not wasteful." She hung up. That evening she posted a photo. A candlelit table. A small plate of something that looked like art. She was laughing at something outside the camera frame, and the caption said, "La Dolce Vita." The sweet life. I went to my room and got the old tablet from my desk. I pressed record. I held it at arm's length the way I had seen people do when they were making videos. "Today is day 5, I said. My voice was steadier than I felt. "Mom posted from a restaurant tonight. I ate half a pack of noodles. The card she left me has never worked. I am going to keep recording." I did not know then exactly why I was doing it. It just felt important to have a record. It felt important that someone, even if that someone was only a future version of me, would be able to see that this had actually happened. My neighbor was a 72-year-old man named Mr. Desmond Cole. He had lived in the yellow house next to ours for longer than my parents had owned our house. He walked with a slight limp and kept a cat whose name I could never quite catch when he said it. He noticed the empty driveway on day 7. He knocked on my door with the careful, measured knock of someone who already suspects the answer but is giving you the dignity of telling it yourself. I wanted to say everything was fine. I was pale. My lips were dry. I had not slept properly in 6 days because the house made sounds at night that it never made when my parents were home. He looked at me with the steady attention of someone who had seen a great many things in his life and had stopped being fooled by surfaces. "Would you like to come over for dinner?" he said. I made too much. We both understood that he had not made too much. He had made exactly the right amount because he had already decided what he was going to do before he knocked. I sat at his kitchen table that night and ate spaghetti with tomato sauce and bread with real butter. He did not ask me a long list of questions. He let me eat. When I was finished he sat back and looked at me quietly for a moment and then said, "How long have they been gone?" I told him. I told him everything, because I was too tired to construct a story and because his kitchen smelled like garlic and warmth, and it was the first time in a week that I had felt like I was sitting somewhere safe. He listened without interrupting. When I finished he was quiet for a moment and then he said, very gently, "I am not going to call anyone yet. But I am going to bring food every day. And I think you should keep writing things down. Dates and details. Everything you remember and everything that happens going forward." He paused. "Evidence," he said, "is the thing that gets believed." I did not fully understand what he meant then. I do now. My mother had enrolled me in a summer program at school weeks before they left, not because she cared about what I learned there, but because a child in a structured program during the day meant one less thing to think about. I went every morning. I sat in the math sessions and the reading sessions and I did the work because the alternative was sitting in a quiet house that felt like it was slowly exhaling all its air. On day 12, I nearly fainted during a morning session. My vision went gray at the edges and then I was on a cot in the nurse's office with a woman I did not recognize looking at my face with the focused expression of someone doing a rapid calculation. She took my temperature. She put me on a scale. She asked, very carefully, when I had last eaten a full meal. She asked where my parents were. My teacher, Miss Reyna, was standing in the doorway. She was a small, quiet woman with very still eyes. After the nurse stepped out to make a phone call, Miss Reyna came and sat in the chair beside the cot. She did not ask me anything. She just said, very simply, I see you. And then, I want you to know that. That is all. I had not cried in 12 days. I did not cry then. But something in my chest shifted the way a locked thing shifts when the right key finally turns in it, not open, not yet, but loose. Moving. My mother called that evening. I heard the school contacted you, she said, her voice dropping to the register she used when she wanted to be taken very seriously. What exactly did you say to them? I told her I had not said anything. You are embarrassing this family, she said. If you say one single word to any teacher or any neighbor or anyone at all, I will put you in a boarding school when I get home. You will not be living in this house. Do you understand me? I said yes. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I opened the tablet and pressed record. I said what had just happened. I said it plainly, the way you state facts you need to be able to find again later. Then I read her exact words back into the camera so they would exist somewhere outside my own memory where no one could tell me I had imagined them. I recorded for 22 days. I did not plan to record for exactly 22 days. That is simply how many days it took before someone arrived who was authorized to do something about what was happening. I filmed the inside of the refrigerator every few days. I stood on the bathroom scale and filmed the number. I kept every receipt from the grocery store and photographed them with the date on my phone visible in the frame. I filmed the kitchen table where the $20 bill had been left. I filmed the sealed envelope the credit card had come in, never opened by anyone because it had never worked. I filmed myself talking, calmly and with as much detail as I could manage, about every day that had passed. I had lost 9 pounds by the time anyone weighed me officially. I know that now because it is in the school medical report. At the time I just knew that my jeans were loose in a way they had not been before and that I felt cold even on warm afternoons and that my concentration in the program sessions came and went like a radio signal that keeps losing its frequency. Miss Yoon, the caseworker, arrived on the morning of day 22. She was a calm woman with a neat binder and the efficient, unhurried movement of someone who had done this many times before and understood that rushing made people close up. She moved through our house with quiet attention, opened the refrigerator, looked at the pantry, checked the bathroom, looked at the mail that had piled up on the counter. Then she turned to me and asked if there was anything I wanted to show her. I brought her the tablet. She watched every video without speaking. When the last one ended she set the tablet carefully on the table and she said, "You are very careful, Vera. This matters." Then she asked me a question that no adult had asked me directly before, not once in 11 years. She said, "Do you want to be safe?" I said yes. Out loud. For the first time in my life I said it like it was something I was allowed to want. What happened after that moved quickly and did not feel like it was happening to me. It felt like I was watching it from a slight distance, the way you watch weather move across a field from the inside of a warm room. The school's medical report documented 9 pounds of weight loss over 22 days. The financial records, obtained by a court order, showed that my parents had spent just under $44,000 over the course of the month. On restaurants. On hotels. On tours and spa treatments and bottles of wine that cost more than our monthly grocery bill. The credit card that had been left for me, the one still in its sealed envelope, had been requested from the bank but had been flagged before ever being activated. This had not been an accident or an oversight. The account notes confirmed it had been set aside and left inactive before they departed. My mother had looked at that card and made a choice. My mother had planned a welcome home party for the night they returned. 38 guests. A catering company. A slide projector set up in the living room to show photos from the trip. A banner above the front window that said "Welcome Home" in large gold letters that caught the light from the porch lamp when the car pulled into the driveway. The car pulled into the driveway at 8:30 in the evening. I know the exact time because I was sitting in Miss Yoon's car parked 2 houses down the street, and she had told me to watch the clock. My parents did not know I was there. They did not know anyone was there. As far as they knew, they were coming home to a party. And they were right about that part. My father got out first and pulled both suitcases from the trunk. My mother stepped out and smoothed her blouse and looked at the lit-up house with the satisfied expression of someone watching a plan go exactly right. She walked up the front path. She opened the door. The music and the warm air and the sound of 38 people welcoming her home came rushing out all at once. She walked straight into the middle of it like she owned the room. Because she believed she did. For 20 minutes, everything was exactly as she had planned. People hugged her. They asked about the trip. She showed photos on her phone, laughing at the memories, accepting the compliments about how rested she looked, how happy, how absolutely glowing. My father stood near the food table with a drink in his hand and smiled quietly at anyone who made eye contact with him. The slide projector clicked through image after image on the living room wall: sunsets over the water, candlelit restaurant tables, cobblestone streets at golden hour, my mother in every single frame, laughing. She was mid-sentence, telling a story about a boat ride in Greece, glass raised, the whole room listening and smiling, when the doorbell rang. She walked to the front door herself, still smiling, still holding her glass, expecting more guests who were running late. She pulled the door open wide with a big, warm welcome already forming on her lips. Miss Yoon was standing on the porch. 2 police officers stood directly behind her, 1 on each side. My mother's smile did not disappear right away. It stayed on her face for 2 or 3 full seconds while her brain tried to understand what her eyes were seeing. Then it fell. Not gradually. All at once, like something that had been cut loose. "What is this?" she said. Her voice came out small and strange, nothing like her usual voice. "What is going on? Who are you?" Miss Yoon introduced herself calmly. One of the officers explained that they had a warrant. My mother took 1 step back into the house. Then another. Her free hand came up and grabbed the door frame like she needed something to hold on to. "No," my mother said. "No, no, no. There has been a mistake. She is fine. She is completely fine. She knows how to take care of herself. She has always been like that. She is very independent, she did not need anyone there, she was perfectly capable." The officers stepped inside. The room had gone quiet behind her. 38 people had stopped talking. The music was still playing but no one was listening to it anymore. Everyone was looking at the door. My mother turned around and looked at all of them looking at her, and something crossed her face that I had never seen on her face before, not guilt exactly, but the sudden, crashing awareness that there were witnesses. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, louder now, turning to her guests like they were a jury she could still convince. "You all know me. You know what kind of mother I am. She is a dramatic child, she has always exaggerated, she does this for attention, she." Then the projector changed. Someone had connected a laptop to it. No one in the room saw exactly who did it or when. One moment the wall showed a photo of my mother at a rooftop restaurant in Rome, laughing at the camera with a glass of wine in her hand. The next moment the wall showed my face. I was 11 years old in the video. Pale. Thin in the way that happens when a body has been running on very little for too long. I was holding the tablet at arm's length the way I had seen people do it. My voice came through the projector speakers, clear and steady and completely calm, filling the entire room from wall to wall. Today is day 15, my voice said. There is one egg in the refrigerator. I have $4 left. My mother posted from a rooftop restaurant in Rome last night. I am recording this because I want there to be a record. I want someone to be able to see what is actually happening here. The room was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. No one looked at their phone or their drink or the person standing next to them. Every single person in that room was looking at the wall. At my face. At 11-year-old me holding a tablet in an empty house, thin and calm and making sure someone would eventually know the truth. My mother screamed. Not a word. Not a sentence. Just a sound, high and sharp and nothing like her usual careful, controlled voice. It came out of her before she could stop it, before she could decide whether it was the right thing to do, before she could think about how it would look. She screamed and the glass slipped from her hand and hit the floor and broke, and the sound of it breaking was very loud in the silence of the room. Turn it off, she said. Her voice was shaking badly now. Turn that off right now, that is not what it looks like, you do not understand, she is fine, she was always fine, someone turn that off. Nobody moved to turn it off. Miss Yoon opened her folder and began reading from the official report in a calm, flat voice. No adult had checked on the property at any point during the 30-day absence. The credit card left for the child had been deliberately set to inactive before departure. This was confirmed by the bank's own account notes. The family had spent $43,812 over the same 30 days. On restaurants, hotels, private tours, wine tastings, a spa in Florence. My mother looked around the room. Her guests, her friends, her online community who had come in person to celebrate her return, not one of them said a word. Not one of them moved toward her. A few of them looked at the floor. One woman near the back quietly picked up her bag and her coat and walked to the door without making eye contact with anyone. This is my house, my mother said. Her voice had dropped very low. You cannot do this in my house. These are my guests. I have rights. I want a lawyer. I want. The officers were very polite. They were very calm. They explained what was happening and what would happen next in the same quiet tone they had used from the beginning. My father, who had not said a single word through any of it, set his drink down on the food table very carefully and put his hands in front of him without being asked. My mother was still talking as they walked her toward the door. Still explaining. Still finding new ways to say that I was dramatic, that I was imaginative, that I had a history of making things bigger than they were. She was saying it to the room, to the officers, to anyone who would listen, right up until she stepped over the threshold and onto the front porch. Then she stopped talking. She looked up at the banner above the door. Welcome home in large gold letters, catching the light from the porch lamp exactly the way she had imagined it would when she ordered it weeks ago from her hotel room in Paris. She stood there and looked at it for one long moment. Then the officer beside her said something very quietly, and she walked down the front path and got into the police car, and the door closed. Inside the house, the projector was still running. My voice was still coming through the speakers. Somewhere in the middle of the room, surrounded by catered food and broken glass and 37 people who did not know where to look, the slideshow of The Sweet Life continued playing on the wall to an empty audience. My parents accepted a plea agreement. Probation. Community service hours. A felony on each of their records. The family court judge terminated their parental rights at the same hearing where the plea was entered. She read from her decision in a voice that had no particular drama in it, because the facts themselves required no drama. The facts were enough. My mother's sister, my Aunt Clara, had already submitted paperwork for guardianship before the hearing. The court approved it that same morning. I did not know she had done this until it was done. I did not know she had been following the case or that she had spoken to Miss Yoon or that she had driven 4 hours the night before to be present in the courtroom. I only know that when the hearing ended and I walked out of the courthouse, she was standing in the hallway with her coat still on and her car keys in her hand, and she looked at me the way you look at someone when you are trying to memorize their face. Aunt Clara lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment. Mismatched dishes. A second-hand sofa with a soft blanket draped over the worn armrest. Her kitchen smelled like coffee in the morning and something warm in the evening, and the walls had small framed photos of ordinary things, a beach, a dog she used to have, a postcard from somewhere cold. It was the most comfortable place I had ever lived. She came to every school event I had. She wrote them on the kitchen calendar in red pen. She sat across from me at dinner and asked follow-up questions, not just, "How was your day?" but actual follow-up questions, the kind that mean someone listened to what you said yesterday. I kept waiting for her patience to run out. I kept waiting for the moment when I would become too much and she would look at me with the particular tired expression I had learned to recognize in adults. That moment never came. I am 18 now. In a few months I start college on a full merit scholarship. I am going to study law. I made that decision a long time ago, in the quiet of a house that did not feel safe, sitting across from a caseworker who asked me if I wanted to be safe and meant it as a real question. I want to be the person who asks that question. I want to ask it and mean it and then actually do something about the answer. Last week I found 2 letters in my desk drawer. Both from my mother. They had been forwarded through the court system, which is the only way she is permitted to contact me. I sat with both envelopes for a long time before I opened them. Not out of fear. Just out of the knowledge that some things cannot be unknown once they are read, and I wanted to be ready. In the first letter she said she was in therapy. She said she was beginning to understand, slowly, what she had done and what it had cost. She said the word sorry in a way that felt genuine, though I am not entirely sure I am the right person to judge that. In the second letter she said she was proud of me. Then she corrected herself, in the very next sentence, and said she had no right to be proud of me because pride implies a contribution she had not made. I read that sentence 3 times. It was the most honest thing she had ever written to me. I put both letters back in their envelopes. I have not written back yet. I do not know if I will. I am holding that decision the way you hold something fragile, carefully, with both hands, without rushing toward either direction. And that itself is something that took me years to understand, that I am allowed to hold it. That the decision is mine. That no one gets to tell me how to feel about it or when to feel it or what the feeling should eventually become. She left me with $20 and a card she knew would not work. She calculated, and I do believe it was a calculation, that my obedience and my silence and my 11-year-old need to be loved would be enough to keep me quiet and safe and manageable for 30 days until she came home to her welcome party and her banner and her sparkling wine. She was wrong about the obedience. She was wrong about the silence. She was wrong about all of it. The thing she did not know, the thing she had never bothered to learn about me in 11 years, was that I was not obedient out of weakness. I was quiet because I was watching. I was still because I was thinking. And the moment someone gave me a tool, a tablet, a record button, a caseworker who sat across from me and asked a real question, I used it with everything I had. I want to say one more thing, and I want to say it directly. If you grew up in a house where you were told in 100 small ways that your needs were an inconvenience, that your voice was a problem, that asking for something was the same as being ungrateful, I want you to hear this: the silence was never yours to carry. It was placed on you. It was put there because it was useful to someone else. It protected them, not you. It never protected you. You are allowed to speak. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to want to be safe and to say so out loud and to keep saying it until someone with the right authority actually listens. You are allowed to document what happened to you. You are allowed to show it to the right person. You are allowed to let the truth be seen, even if the people who hurt you are standing in the same room when it appears on the wall. The Sweet Life, my mother's caption said from a rooftop in Rome. This is mine.